course, Congressman Rangel himself was censured by the House Ethics Committee last year. Congressman Weiner has commanded the front page of the New York tabloids until today, when the New York Post gave him only half of the front page, while the New York Daily News actually moved on to other news on its front page and had its first Anthony Weiner-free front page. Joining me now, Roll Call's Associate Politics Editor, Christina Bellantoni. Christina, this latest report from Delaware indicating that police are talking to a 17-year-old, Anthony Weiner saying the communication with that person was in no way questionable. What do we have to wait for in terms of developments on that story?
Well, if the police decide to release any more information or if the congressman says anything, I thought it was very interesting the way the congressman's spokeswoman phrased that. According to him, the communications were not. I mean, that's not usually what you hear from a spokesperson, right. And obviously his staff is probably a little nervous, but it's also important to note, I mean, when we're talking about the use of Twitter and Facebook, you don't really know, unless you've met people, you don't know their real identities, you don't know how old they are. I mean, this opens up a really big can of worms, and he certainly walked into this on Monday when a reporter asked him at that press conference, do you know that all of the people you did this with were of age? And he said, I cannot, whatever he said, it was something along the lines of, I'm not sure of that. And I think that that's why people are really digging into this.
And to keep it in perspective, just in terms of numbers, he has this huge number of followers. He follows a huge number of people on Twitter. And so even if we were to take everything we're hearing about his racy stuff to be all true, it's still a minority of what he's doing on Twitter. Most of his Twitter traffic is innocent Twitter traffic.
Although you can't track direct messages, so you don't actually know that. I mean, there could be more to the story. I think that it's very interesting watching whether lawmakers are supporting him or not. The reason so many of them are calling for him to resign, I mean, you heard it with Senator Brown, who is up for re-election in 2012 and will face a tough race, is because it's a distraction from what they want to be talking about. They don't want reporters to be asking them about another member. However, when you look at these polls, his constituents are saying they want him to stay, and the question is whether he did anything illegal, whether he violated his office, and whether his constituents want him there. Well, you know, this is a very interesting question, and I'm sure this is not the last we're going to be hearing of it.
Christina, what I've seen so far in the Democrats, I mean, Republicans calling for Weiner to resign, we get that. Of course that's going to happen. But the Democrats calling for him to resign, it's coming exclusively from Democrats who have to do that for their own political election and re-election purposes. You look at the states they come from, Virginia, now Ohio, one from Montana, I believe. It's the places where there's a strong conservative vote that could knock them over, and so they have to immediately separate themselves from any association from him.
Yeah, it's also, I think the media has a little bit of an element of this as well, because if a reporter puts a microphone in your face and asks you whether, you know, maybe you're from a really blue state and you get asked the question, you're probably going to come down on the side of not standing next to him. I mean, when you have Charlie Rangel sort of as your only friend in Congress, that's maybe not the best advocate you want to have, given, as you mentioned, Rangel was censured last year for his own ethical troubles. But I think that you're going to continue to hear more and more of this, particularly when the House comes back next week. That's a lot of members that are going to be asked this question.
Christina Bellantoni of Roll Call, you'll be there to cover what those members have to say for us. Thank you very much for joining me this evening.
Thanks. Have a good weekend.
Thank you. Coming up.